Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and a few months ago, I was at the Association of Games and Puzzles International, and they collect and sell old board games. And I was able to pick up a couple copies of these as a reprint of an old Parker Brothers catalog, the Parker games from 1920 to 1921. And I find this stuff to be fascinating. There's a website on the internet called BoardGameGeek.com, which is the definitive engine for finding board games. But guess what? About half of these games in here aren't there. At least I couldn't find them. Now, many I can find them, and I'm going to show you some pictures of either the game that I could find or a modern picture of some of these games. But most of these games you probably never heard of. I find this interesting to look through. We're going to take a look through this book together. Maybe you'll find it interesting too. Here we go. So here we have the book, the Parker Games 1920 to 21. So everything published by Parker Brothers. So here we see the office in the Flatiron Building, the handiest location in New York. So let's get started taking a look here. So you get some stuff about starts with some toys. So we see the telegraph office, the post office, the kitchen set, the baking set, the Toy Town Railroad game. These are some things I'd like to see, like Poppin' Ball, which you throw them at the wall. Trap Shot. So Trap Shot I found on Board Game Geek, and it looks like you're just you're pulling a cord, trying to get it into these different boxes for points. This would be one I like to try. I also like to get this kicking game. That one I could not find anywhere. Then you got Cover 'em Up, big Sunny Monday washing set, and another Sunny Monday washing set. Would you like to learn how to iron and clean clothes for fun? Okay, so here we have some, this stuff has been around forever. The ring toss, not necessarily anything, but here they make their own ring toss or a net ball. The egg rolling game, this one's patented, folks. This egg rolling game, which Board Game Geek says 1935, that can't be right here. The White House egg rolling game, where you have these eggs and you're just rolling them into these numbered holes. So it's kind of like a ball, like throwing a ball into the hole, but you're doing it with eggs. Crazy Traveler is another one. I like how they're like, it has been imitated under other titles, but remains unequaled. So folks have been stealing this stuff for well over a century here. But I like the idea of the spinning top. It looks like it's a spinning top in here, knocking over stuff. Then Tango. Box Ball. Here's another one I like to just see a copy of this one. The Jolly Boys. I really like the name of this one. Catching the Pigs. Then we got some animal pins. And this one, Pop in Tall. I don't know what that means, but I was just amused by that. Okay, Table Golf. So again, this is kind of a thing that I wasn't expecting this to be around so long ago. And here we got the game of Pop Over, Barn Door Target, Whirl It, and then a good chunk of battle games. And unfortunately, a lot of these battle games I can't find online, so I don't really know how good they are. Here we have Slam Bang, the Boy Hunter, Cannon and Target. This one looks like you're just basically shooting rubber bands at guns. Here we have the Great War, U.S. troops, giant soldiers. You can see they really were pushing this sort of thing to people. Then ping pong. So this is it's just funny to look at. This is the old side ping pong. But if you think about it, ping pong hasn't changed that much, actually, on how a ping pong table looks and how they act. Again, we're talking well over a century ago. Tiddlywinks. Tiddlywinks, of course, is around for many, many years. There's lots of different versions of Tiddlywinks. Tiddlywink Tennis. And here we have a wall toss and pillow decks. You're going to make the pillow decks balloon, hitting a balloon. The beanbag game. So this stuff is still around even now today. Topsy-Turvy. The game of Topsy-Turvy. This is a square board. You turn it upside down, and it's just a simple game. I like this. A very simple game for very little children. So pretty simple. And then Barber Pole. Now Barber Pole, this game, according to Board Game Geek, came out in 1896. That's a long time ago. Very bright colored game, throwing the rings onto the hooks. The whole Barber Pole sign thing, I think, is slowly disappearing from society. Then over the fence, ring the pin. Sambo, this would not be appropriate nowadays. Dodging Donkey, Game of Tops, Twirly Gig, Roly Poly, a lot of these things. Okay, so now some interesting stuff. At least I find this to be more interesting. Halma, it says, is by far the most popular game of skill, excepting checkers, played in America. Well, they say that, and yet I bet you, like me, have probably never heard of it. But it just looks like a super giant version of checkers. Then we have the Parker War game, which I can't find a lot about, but I can find some stuff about this Journey to Bethlehem. It's played with miniature metal shepherds, camels, and wise men as they go to 145 different cities, journeying through Bethlehem. And then over here, we have Pollyanna and Broadway, which look like two versions of the same game. Pollyanna looks very much Parcheesi-esque. And so I'm going to assume that's kind of what it is. And it says it's a good game for 3 to 4 players. Then over here we have Chivalry. Chivalry is indisputably the greatest modern board game of skill. Well, maybe back then it was. I don't know much about it. But here's what the experts say. So just remember, F.W. Barry, Esquire, and Mr. H. Davidson, a well-known checker playing expert. You know, see? You don't know who he is, right? Well, if you're watching this in the year 2122, you don't know who I am either. Alrighty, Across the Continent. Now, these games actually look cool. I would love to see these things in person as you're moving across with all these different spaces on the board. The same thing here with the Panama Canal game. I think that looks almost like it could almost be a modern game, right? Same thing with this, The Wide World and the Journey Around It. These travel games, they're almost kind of ahead of their time. Like, where were these games in the 50s and 60s, this kind of style of game? Then we have Innocents Abroad, the good old game. Board Game Geek has it, the amusing game of Innocents Abroad. And this is, from what I can tell, an early version of like Mad Libs, I think. Then we have Office Boy. It says an old favorite on a big game board here. And then we got checkers. Of course, you want to be able to buy checkers along with whatever this game here, Go, Bang, and then, of course, Parcheesi. Then over here, we have some more war games, some low-priced board games. And then 2 games that are still around today. These, there's a few games in here that you'll recognize, and I think most people here would recognize Pit, at least, where everyone's shouting and holding up cards. And there's modern versions. You can still go by Pit today, and you can still go by Rook today. Rook is trick-taking, bidding game. I know a lot of people play it. It was a nice alternative for many, many years for people who did not want to play playing cards. Playing cards had a very negative connotation, and so people would play Rook instead. Then we got the Boy Scouts game here. There's a lot of games from this era called Boy Scouts. I could not find this particular one on Board Game Geek, but it might be there. But I'm a Millionaire. This one I could find. I'm a Millionaire is good fun. And I like how they brag that the corners of the cards are rounded, which I imagine is a bigger thing here. But you need to become a millionaire. And if you think about it, back then, a millionaire, wow, a ton of money. Jumping over here, we have Tactics and Militac, the Parker Brothers Game of Flags. So I'm kind of interested in seeing that. Authors Deluxe. Bunko, a little small one here, but this is another game that is still around today. It says it's based on the old game of Desperation. And then look, Sherlock Holmes. This is one of the few IP, intellectual property games that is in here. Auction Anagrams. So if you like word games and you're trying to figure out letters and stuff, and it's in a leatherette box stamped with silver leaf. That's the Kickstarter edition. Down here we have Wood anagrams, where you're just trying to make things out of wood. And then over here, Rummy and Plaza. Of course, you can play Rummy with a regular set of cards, a regular deck of cards, but here you can play it with your own special ones. And then this Fairies Cauldron Tiddlywinks game. I looked it up on Board Game Geek and it just showed up under Tiddlywinks. Then we have baseball. Baseball, very popular. Peg baseball. So peg baseball looks interesting with the dice, a dice cap, and you put the pegs in. This is the kind of game I'd want to go back and play. Flinch. Now, Flinch is, I got to say, this is one I haven't heard of, but it has quite a few ratings. Looks like it came out in 1903. It says it's played like the old game called Desperation, but I was kind of interested in that one. Numerica, look at this, for solitaires. See, so gamers, you had games coming out way back then. For 2 to 3 and 4 players, looks like you're just putting, it's like a puzzle type game, putting stuff in order. Now this game here, authors, there's a lot of them. You can see many of these different authors out here, and I found quite a few on Board Game Geek. It looked like the game came out originally in 1861. And then down here, a bunch of old-made games. Then look at this, popular 30-cent card games. The Game of Lou, it's a racing game. I don't even know what that one is here. But all different sorts of games here. 30 cents. My ships come from India. Corner Grocery. Jack Straws is a particularly interesting one, I found, because it has like these weird, just different shaped sticks and things, like a Dexterity game from way back when. Over here, comical fun-making games. So this is what today we would call party games. We have How Silas Popped the Question. So it looks like you're trying to ask someone to marry you, but things keep getting in the way. And then on the other side here, we have Mrs. Casey Wants to Know, and then she's your neighborhood gossip, so you're trying to ask nosy questions to other people. So there's all kinds of stuff like that here. Sir Hinkle Funny Duster. You have to say thank you when you get a card, or you lose all your cards. The most polite player wins the game. Okay. And that's pretty much it for the board games. Here we have maps, and then puzzles, more picture puzzles. As you go through here, lots of different jig. They aren't necessarily called jigsaw puzzles, but this is jig-a-jig puzzles. I guess that's like a precursor to that. Here you have the magnetic fish pond. There's checkers and dominoes. There's lotto or bingo-esque games. Then we get to paper dolls. Here we have embroidery sets, toy money, crayons and cards. Kaleidoscope, kaleidograph is what it was called here. Where you just, these are the art sets and bead stringing, still very popular today. So there you go. Well, there you go, folks. I found that interesting. I have another one of these that I'm going to show you from the 30s. If you would like to learn more about the Association for Games and Puzzles International, AGPI, you can find them at gamesandpuzzles.org. So if you like to collect different old games and look for that, they have a convention every year. This year it's going to be in Manchester. So they get together, and I really had a good time looking at this stuff this past year. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this walk through the past over a century ago. I'm Tom Vasel, and you're watching a Dice Tower.